Gay Pride and other activities for all our residents of the city of Springfield. And Mike, I also wish good health to your mother and my father. Thank you. Now,
I just want to make sure SEIU is listening.
okay, Ahmad. SEIU is also here. You're going to have the mic for a long time, Ahmad, so you'll be all set. You'll be all set. Therefore, I, Dominic J. Sarno, do proclaim the month of June 2012, Gay Pride Month in the great city of Springfield, and I call upon the people of Springfield to observe this month by helping our families, friends, neighbors, co-workers, and leaders better understand the importance of equality. God bless you. God bless your family.
Holly, I know how shy you are. Come on.
About yourself.
My name is George Dempos. I was born here in Springfield. I came out in the 70s, and when I first came out, I thought I was the only gay person in Springfield until I finally met, went to a gay bar and realized, whoa, there's a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
But you didn't know that. God bless Mike Carney. First openly gay police officer in the Springfield force. I'm sure there were plenty before him that never came out.
My name is Michael Carney. I grew up in the city of Springfield. My parents really distilled my Irish heritage into me, and often would go to the John Boyle Riley Club, where my father was president for over 15 years. And my whole life was intertwined with Gaelic speaking and aunts and uncles and cousins from Ireland coming and going, and lots of fun. Went through the police academy in 1982 and got on the job as a police officer at the age of 22. I didn't identify myself as being gay, although I thought that I liked men.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of confusing. Bill Conley did a fantastic job. Bill was the unofficial, and then he was the official, and appointed by the mayor as the gay liaison.
My name is Bill Conley. I moved here in the late 60s. My first partner was from the Berkshires, so I followed him right after graduating from college. And we were, I would say, through the 70s and 80s, pretty closeted. I ended up coming out on the front page of the Springfield newspaper in the top banner when they did a story about being gay in in Springfield. Mm-hmm. And I did not intend it to be that way, but after that there was no going back. It changed my relationships within the company, and with my friends, some of whom were not quite as anxious to pal around with me. Right. But it also gave me a great freedom of no longer having to hide anything. Well, we've talked about Bob McCarroll, and Bob is one of those community, I say he's a community builder as opposed to an organizer. Bob is terrific at keeping LGBT people coming together around different occasions.
Well, I'm Bob McCarroll, and I live in downtown Springfield and have been here for almost 35 years. Spent a year as a Vista volunteer in Newport News, Virginia, and then went to graduate school at Rutgers in New Jersey. And on graduating, looked for jobs, would have preferred to have been in a big city. Where did I get offered a job? But Springfield. So certainly, Mayor Albano, by having a gay liaison, by having the first pride flag raising at City Hall, and having the domestic partnership, which included same-sex couples, was an ally.
Long story. Sure.
Who I am, yeah, that's interesting. Well, politically, I served on the school committee, city council president, mayor for 4 terms, Forest Park resident since 1978.
My name is Hudson Ennis. I was born in Boston, adopted into a family in Springfield, and moved here at the age of 6 months. We've had some progress, right? And so we have a city councilor, and I still say we, so notice that part of me will always be in Springfield, I'm part of Springfield. But there's a city councilor who's openly gay.
So my name is Ahmad Rivera. I'm lucky enough to be the current president of Springfield Pride, and also the founder. And I am 30 years old, born and raised right here in Springfield. I was also the first openly gay city councilor. Growing up, I learned multiple things. I learned that the worst things to be growing up here in Springfield were gay, poor, and a person of color. And then by high school I realized, wait, I'm all of these things. And I was always looking for what was the space that I could fully be myself. And for the longest time, I didn't think it was Springfield. I came out at 18. And I met my first boyfriend the summer and fall of my first year of college. So it was a quick turnaround. I went from not knowing what gay meant to like being in a full-fledged relationship. So I was 3 months into my term. And I said, well, we're making all kinds of history. It'd be kind of sad if the only LGBT person to get elected, openly gay LGBT person to get elected, didn't have a pride. I said, I might not win re-election, so I might as well make it happen. So I started making some calls. And one of my first calls was to a wonderful local community activist, Holly Richardson.
My name is Holly Richardson. I'm a community organizer here at Out Now. Yep. And I have been doing it for over 15 years. Really, we do a number of things. One of the things is we have a space for young people to come and hang out with one another. And when I say folks, young people, folks to come, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, two-spirit, queer questioning, intersex, and allied youth. I came to Springfield from another part of Western Mass in 1982, and I went to school here, and I was 17, and I came out here at 17. So right about as soon as I got here, wow. I came out.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all it took. Springfield brought me out.
My name is Brenda J. Lopez. I came here at a very early age. I felt my first inklings of being attracted to women when I was like 6 years old. And the dental hygienist used to come to school, and that's the day I looked forward to.
You know, in 1982 in Springfield, there was not a vibrant community here.
You know, I'm not sure whether I would ever say talk about the community, because I don't think there's that great of a sense of a community.
There was never really an involved type of like a committee, LGBTQ committee or anything like that.
Things were much more closeted than they are now.
You know, not everyone who was out was really out. You weren't out in your workplace, you weren't out in your church.
I look back and think how at 14 had I have never met or talked about or had any engagement with an openly gay person.
You had certain clubs that you went to, you know, certain areas that you felt safe in, certain restaurants.
Back then, we were out as individuals, not as a community.
I don't think it was on the political radar back then, and certainly gays and lesbians in Springfield weren't very politically active.
The general public was not receptive.
Yeah.
There was really no support and no willingness to support.
So I don't think that Springfield was in any way welcoming, accepting of anyone who would identify themselves as a woman loving a woman or a man loving a man.
And it was a very confusing time for a lot of us. It was not at all clear about what this community was supposed to be or could be.
She didn't have the rights she had nowadays. There was no gay marriage thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had to like do up these contracts.
Right.
You know, if you wanted like your partner to be able to inherit things. It was like very common when couples that were together for years, for like family members who they hadn't talked to in 25 years, just to come and take everything, and the person that they were with, you know,
Right.
for 20 years lost everything.
The world was thriving.
Yeah.
We were starting to fight for equal marriage, and I still was afraid to go out in Springfield.
Words were like, you know, faggot and just horrible names. So of course, as a young, impressionable person, I was like, I don't want to have nothing to do with those people.
As I was coming out, we had Matthew Shepard. That happened, and I remember that very vividly because I worried that would happen here, that they were going to hurt me.
People used to come out of a bar and be beat up. Not just by, I mean, and usually not by the people who didn't like them, but by authorities. You know, how people were incarcerated, not because they had done anything horribly wrong, but because they happened to love someone of their own gender.
And despite all of this bravado I had around being gay and being about rights, you know, I couldn't hold his hand in public.
Living in Springfield, I just never felt safe enough to be outwardly out with another woman. And so it was difficult for me as a young person to even think about coming out. Your family, your friends, your community, you risked losing it all.
I came out socially while I was in graduate school. So the first summer I was back, discovered that my friend from high school, who I'd kept in touch with, had come out at UMass, and so that summer we hit the bars.
Pre-90s, most gay community involved the bars.
And at one time was probably looked at as one of the pretty much leaders in the area for nightclubs.
It's not a hotbed of gay activism, but it is a hotbed of gay activity.
When I first came out, it was rugged. It was pretty hard. There weren't people out, and the place to go was, you know, the one or two bars that were down in the basement, and you had to go in the back alley to get down in there. And
I think that was like the culture of like Springfield, right? It was that our community was invisible or dirty.
Most straight people didn't venture near them. Most of the time there weren't even signs out in front of them. There was just a number on the door and a line on Friday and Saturday night.
Drugs and alcohol and secret rooms and I was like, oh, I kind of want to read books.
There used to be a bar called The Arch.
The Frontier.
Which was down on Pearl Street, conveniently located down the street from the police station. and often actually it would be the host of promotional parties for Springfield officers that were promoted.
Charles Burlingham. Chucky owned the Frontier, and then he opened up Just Friends.
Just Friends, the pub.
The pub had been an institution for well over 30 years.
Rosie from the pub, Ray David is his real name, but everybody called him Rosie.
There was a club called David's.
Friends was located on Hamden Street. A block up the street was the pub, and right across the street was David's, underneath the Mardi Gras.
The Judge's Chamber.
There was also a bar called Sisters.
Bars that no longer exist, the Arch and the Arbor, and they were very busy.
There was a bar up there, Rainbow Connection was there for a while, but before that, there was a couple of other different places. I'm not sure if Chicopee was still open or not, the Hideaway. And each bar had its own different type of clientele. You had your leather bar, you had your dance bar, you had your, regular neighborhood bar type of crowd. You know, you name it. The kids bar, the Old Queen bar, you name it. There was a point in time there were like 5, 6, 7 bars in town.
So if you like to dance, that was one club. If you were part of the leather or bear community, you would go to one floor. If you just wanted to hang out and everything, you would go to another place. It's kind of like a one-stop shopping for being a gay male at Springfield.
The bars were very antagonistic against each other.
Okay.
The owners did not get along, and which was good for business though.
I'm not sure if I would call it a rivalry, but I would say that you chose a side.
Okay.
It was the only place that people felt safe.
They all served as avenues for mostly gay men to connect.
People went to those places so they could be themselves and be able to celebrate.
Well, one of the advantages of Springfield is that it is small enough that politicians and legislators, local council people, and mayors knew that they knew someone gay. I did some weekend experience work, helped me develop a vision of increasing the visibility of lesbians and gays in Western Massachusetts. It helped me do some political work with the Mass Gay and Lesbian Political Caucus in the mid-'80s, leading up to the passage of the Gay and Lesbian Civil Rights Bill around '87, '88, and the governor signing it. So we were the second state in the country to have a statewide non-discrimination bill. Mike Carney's battle for his position on the police force brought it front and center. It made it easier for Springfield gays to be present.
I was trying to lead two different lives. I was trying to be the night cop and running around at night after the bars closed, trying to see if I fit in here and there in the gay community. And it wasn't working for me. And I resigned from the police department. I met a Northampton police officer through a friend who told me he was gay. And that would have been unheard of for me. I had never met anybody in my profession that was proposed to be gay. I was soon to meet a lot of people that were just like me, and I didn't know that would be the case. But so it was quite exciting, and it was scary. Once I accepted that and moved on, I reapplied to the Springfield Police Department when asked why I left, and I told them that I was struggling with the issue of being gay, and they turned me down. But what I didn't know is that when I did file the complaint, that it would become not only news but national news. Just like my dad used to tell me when I was a kid, that when he first got here, there were signs in a window that said Irish not need apply. I knew that it was the same type of treatment. And I knew it was wrong for my dad, and I knew it was wrong for his father, and the come-overs from Ireland. I knew it was wrong with me. Was able to settle with the city, and very happily that I did that in 1994, and I went back as a police officer at the Springfield Police Department.
Mike has been, I think, quietly but very effectively one of our best community folks at breaking through stereotypes.
I've also testified about that state law and what it was like to be a candidate who was discriminated against before United States Congress and before the United States Senate.
As part of the station's ongoing effort to reduce bullying and help kids and their parents deal with the effects of bullying, we're teaming up with the Springfield Police Department as they support the Trevor Project. Joining me now is Springfield Officer Michael Carney to talk more about why he's supporting this project. Mike, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Officer Mike Carney of the Springfield, Massachusetts Police Department. Ever since high school, I struggled every day for many years about being gay. It was painful. More than once, I thought about it ending it all. But you know when it got better? When I started being honest with myself and those around me. Today, I'm an out gay police officer. I work with over 425 other officers, and I'm treated like everyone else, with true friendship and respect. Most cops like their jobs because it gives them a chance to level the playing field for those who find themselves victims. I love my job because I know what it feels like to be a victim. I've had cops ask me for advice when their children have come out to them. I have colleagues confide in me their own deeply hidden sexual orientation. I've helped other officers with crimes that have targeted gays for assaults, robberies, hate crimes, and extortion. I've served on the Governor's Task Force on Hate Crimes here in Massachusetts. I've had breakfast at the White House with the President of the United States. Pretty cool, huh? All of this has happened because I've been honest with myself and others about myself.
There's just something about a gay in uniform that makes a huge difference. The late 80s, early 90s. There were still a lot of closeted people who had personal relationships with community leaders that knew they were gay, but that's as far as it could go. And so getting them involved to a higher degree, or contributing, or to a public event, or to lobby, just wasn't something that was going to happen very easily.
Mayor Albano was very supportive.
He also was the first mayor to actively have that's when we had the pride flag raising occurring at City Hall, and he had a liaison to the gay community. So he certainly was the first mayor that put gay people in a more visible light.
Linda Baconian, who was also in the legislature, was very supportive.
Mike Albano, Cheryl Rivera was very big. She was a very big ally for us, especially when the Civic Association started to really take off.
We also had the good fortune of electing some new state legislators, people like Brian Lees, a Republican of all things.
There was one woman who I had never met in my life who wrote a beautiful op-ed in the paper about how I needed to be rehired, and that the police department had to really open up to the gay community and be a great asset to them and so forth. And it was signed, and the author was Beth Simon from Springfield. I didn't know who Beth Simon was. I never crossed paths with this woman that I knew of, and it was really nice that she wrote this letter. So I called Beth one day. I looked it up in the phone book back when we had phone books, and I called Beth, and I got this elderly woman on the phone, and she told me that she was a member of PFLAG. I owe her a tremendous amount of thanks and gratitude for the work that she did over the years. She was like my only ally at one point. I saw her one day. She came, I forget where I was, if it was the AIDS Walk or something, and I saw her driving in, and I was like, oh my God, she was going up over the curb. I was like, oh God, here comes Beth. But she went to she was determined she would be there. She went to every event. She was really, really aces. We're very, very fortunate to have her.
Well, one thing I'm struggling with was the year, because they're sort of blending in.
When I tell folks that I found out that we had a Pride in 1994, they said, oh, where? And I was like, here in Springfield.
I was managing Just Friends, and Mark Scarinzi was the manager of David's. They were the two biggest nightclubs in the town. We were talking about Northampton's Pride, how that had been going on, and Springfield, being a bigger city, should have had something going on a long time beforehand. So we decided to throw a block party.
George actually was really speared, that whole That was his spirit, and he always did a great job.
The pub wanted nothing to do with us. The first one, Northampton's Pride, it was always cold and rainy and muddy.
Right.
And we were like, can't we do this like in the summertime when it's hot?
Yeah.
I think there was always a strong resistance around that date for Pride.
The very first weekend in June was, I think, was Providence's Pride. And then the second weekend in June was always Boston's Pride. The third week in June was New York's Pride. And the fourth week in June, I think they ended up having Hartford's Pride. So we picked that third weekend. Well, of course, we received a lot of flack from the people who go to New York.
Why would you compete against New York Pride?
Pride was a great thing to be able to go to, and then we would go to the one in Boston.
You know, there was no pleasing anybody. The first year that I tried to do this, I knocked into more brick walls than it was. I mean, it was ridiculous. It required me to get 4 police officers. I was like, I'm only expecting 300-400 people. Yeah. They were worried about protecting us from other people. They didn't think the climate was ready in Springfield for it.
Pride today almost seems commonplace, and who could question it? But back then, it was not so.
We still hadn't had the gay liaison. There was no such thing as gay straight alliances in the high schools. This was a big thing for Springfield.
We were very anxious to see who would show up.
It was very difficult to get people to come to the event because there were people who were worried about being on camera.
They had like a day that they blocked off an area. It was a gay bar at the time on Hamden Street.
We brought in live bands for the first one. We got a great gay band, Carol and the Burgundies.
Okay.
They were out of Brattleboro, Vermont. And they were great. Rock and rollers. They kind of did a lot of Joan Jett. Lesbians loved them. The guys all loved them.
You know, we were hoping for hundreds of people, and I don't think we got hundreds of people, but we had a fairly good crowd that first year.
How many people total do you think showed up?
I'm going to say about 200.
Probably about 50, 75 people.
There were lots and lots and lots of gay folks in Springfield who never got anywhere near it.
It was funny because I worked at Friends. And in working with Davis, with Mark Scarinzi, I was actually like almost lost my job because I was like, you know, shopping at Macy's when I worked at, you know,
right.
the other one, you know, Gimbels, you know, you can't do that. Gimbels doesn't shop at Macy's. I had people, as soon as the news crews showed up, Channel 40, Channel 22 showed up, and in the Springfield paper at the first gay party, they jumped in their cars and, you know, I don't want to be seen at this thing. Wow. I can remember my brother, like, when I got interviewed, him screaming, "Can't you use a different name?" You know, we had brought all these people in from New Haven and Hartford, and people came down from Northampton, and even Albany area, people had come in from Rhode Island.
I was surprised by the media coverage because they were very, very interested. This was controversial.
Yeah.
You know, new people coming into the community. Who are these people? What are they doing here?
We were fearful that we might have people down there just to be like idiots, you know, just to cause problems. But we had nothing at all like that. Everybody had a ball.
Were you aware of any kind of community resistance to those events?
No.
For someone to want to express opposition, they would actually have to come into town.
Did you get any kind of resistance or negative feedback or people trying to shut it down or anything like that?
I don't recall any resistance there. In fact, I sort of remember the opposite there. So as we were raising money to try to support Pride, and holding raffles and silent auction and doing things throughout the year. I just remember people opening up and being willing to donate items and to be willing to support it.
Look at us, we're here, and people know why we're here.
It was exciting. I just remember being excited about the just being together and having something of our own.
There was a jubilation.
We sold out of the t-shirts.
Yay! That's a positive signifier right there.
We had built up, the community, had built up quite a good list of politicians who were more than aware of their gay constituencies. They had actually begun to understand the issues and develop some affinity to our issues.
I had proposed a domestic partnership ordinance which gave benefits, healthcare benefits, and certain other benefits to city employees.
It was pretty advanced for Springfield.
We had 7,000 city employees, and a number of them weren't married because they couldn't get married. So I had proposed this ordinance. All of a sudden I get a call from Father Richard from Mount Carmel. He said, Michael? I said, yes, Father. He says, the bishop wants to see you.
Every time we brought something to someone, we had the right wing, which was working against us.
Mr. President, that's City Council President at the time, not Mayor, he goes, if you go forward with this, I'm going to tell my priests to deliver a message at their sermons on Sunday to advise them to vote against you and anybody who supports this ordinance.
And it's pretty frustrating.
Didn't quite make it, but it was a great experience. The City Council was increasingly gay-friendly.
You know, not many folks are threatened by a bishop politically.
Yeah. That's sort of a badge of honor.
First year was just like trial and error. The next year, though, I got pushed right through. I had no problems whatsoever. We had the experience, you know, of doing it the first year. We learned from our mistakes. We had like, you know, the backing of the police department. I had the fire. They all knew who I was. They knew the event that we did, and they just everybody just signed off. I ended up getting the backing then of all the bars that year. Everybody jumped on the bandwagon the second year. There were events going on all over town for the weekend. All the bars were connected. We did fundraisers because we found out the hard way how much it costs to put on that type of event. We had a speaker series. There was even a film festival.
People who helped out in arranging for the food vendors, who staffed tables, who just about anything you can imagine with a Pride event, there was someone volunteering for that. We
combined it with the In Awards, which was the big gay rag back then, the gay newspaper that was all over the area, and they did this huge fundraiser. We ended up raising about $160,000 between all over New England for this thing. And they were a big sponsor of the Boston Gay Pride, so when we started our Springfield Gay Pride, they really wanted to incorporate it with theirs. You know, we could use theirs as a little kickoff. We passed out flyers from their float at the Boston Pride. Nice. Gay Straight Alliance from the high school came down and spoke. It was pretty pretty big stuff. We had a youth party. We had a party for every group. You know, we didn't even have to let the drag queens perform the first year. But that war started the second year when we decided to have the Miss Pride contest. Every bar was involved. They all had their own Miss Gay Pride party contest, or leather contest, or Mr. Gay Pride for the girls' bars. I can just remember one person in particular, just like reading me the riot act. I was like, if I let you perform, I have these other 12. Right. So that's 12. If you all do a 4-minute number, that's 2 hours of freaking drag queens. People from Hartford came down, people from Northampton came down. It was really good. We ended up with close to about, I'm going to say 400 to 500 people.
I'm a big believer in civil rights. Grew up, in the Kennedy King era, but as importantly, my father was a commissioner against discrimination in the 1960s.
Mike Albano was the one who brought us to the forefront. He appointed Joe DeMoore.
I was approached by a group from the gay community who wanted to embrace public policy relative to my administration and have a more open dialogue relative to the gay community. So we put a committee together, and I was absolutely amazed at the number of people, the professionalism, the positions that they held, and so we made it part of our platform. On day one, almost, of my administration, after I got elected in 1995, I appointed a liaison to the gay community. That led to a domestic partnership ordinance that we put together.
I mean, the first time I remember anything that related to gay people would be during the Mayor Albano administration, when he put forth a domestic partnership that related both to same-sex domestic partners and opposite-sex domestic partners.
We broke the 500 mark in '96.
When I moved up to be one of the organizers, in a sense, since my job was easier, because all I got to do is say, hey, let's focus on this, okay, and try to figure out how we're going to pay for it and stuff like that, which is the easy part. Certainly by that time, we had several events. There was a flag raising, there was events at all of the clubs in the Springfield area, and it really became a community event.
There were shows, you could go and you could see and say, oh, who's the best drag queen tonight? Who's the best singer? And you just thought, this is fun. I'm having a great time with like-minded people.
And were you aware at all of the Pride celebrations that happened back in 94, 95?
Yes.
Tell me what you remember about that.
Well, they were, they happened centered around the clubs, the bars. And I was working with Out Now at that point, and young people couldn't go to them.
Holly Richardson that really helped us think about how to have a event that was inclusive of youth and yet was safe for youth to participate in.
We were the first in Springfield to be standing out on City Hall steps with the mayor and the news and gay youth raising the gay flag over City Hall.
Which was a whole interesting concept, I have to tell you. It was very, very interesting because there were a lot of my political advisors said, don't do it.
Yeah.
There was not an awful lot of political support at the time.
They had asked me if I could get the chief to come speak at the Pride parade, and I knew she was very open-minded, and I asked, and she said she'd love to, and we went down to City Hall, and actually the chief and I raised the rainbow flag in front of City Hall. Yeah.
As trivial as it might sound of a little event, that was one of the proudest moments in a lot of people's lives, watching that go up. Wow, people said it, you know, wow.
Wow, who would have thought, you know?
Can you believe we're doing this in Springfield?
That to me is so much progress. Something that you would not mention. Now you have like the mayor and other officials coming out and saying, we're glad you're here.
In fact, the first flag raising event we had, I was the only one there, and then all of a sudden a couple political folks came by who I won't mention their names, but they saw the cameras and they saw the flag and they saw the mayor.
Yeah.
And they said, gee, maybe I should be part of this, not knowing what the event was. So, of course, they come over to get in front of the cameras, and I introduce them as supporters of Gay Pride Week.
Support your local politicians that are friendly,
Right.
because they can make an awfully big difference.
Not only was there a block party, but there was an event at the pub with where Bill Connolly was recognized for his work, and a matter of fact, Brian Lees, who was then the state Senate minority leader, presented the award. And what I remember is that each venue seemed to be pretty full. We were thinking, oh, well, maybe we have to figure out where else to go, how to expand.
'99, they had a small one outside of the Mardi Gras in the parking lot out there. And then 2000 and to 2003, there was a very big one down at Riverfront Park.
And I would think the Riverfront Park events probably went into the early 2000s.
The group that was organizing it that year, I think, did a good job of dreaming bigger.
It was one of the largest ones that we had, attendance-wise, vendor-wise, events-wise.
To take the event from the block party and move it to a more neutral location, and providing the opportunity for performances and bringing in people from Northampton to perform, and other people from Hartford even to perform. I just remember there being a lot of food.
My name actually appeared first against the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Michael Albano, and others versus the Attorney General, relative to the definition of what marriage was.
Yeah.
Mind you, legislators had come off of, not too long ago, one of the most contentious issues around the death penalty.
Oh, yeah.
And they had fought tooth and nail. That was an all-out pitched battle. This was much more intense.
But Bill was out front on these issues, and I followed his lead, and was very pleased to do it.
The marriage debate turned ugly very quickly, and the stereotypes were just unimaginable. The use of imagery against us was trotted out faster than we could push it back.
And eventually we prevailed in the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts, only by one vote. It was a 4-3 vote, which legalized gay marriage.
And all hell broke loose in the legislature that day. The building was just vibrating with anxiety and fear.
In recent months, however, some activist judges and local officials have made an aggressive attempt to redefine marriage. In Massachusetts, 4 judges on the highest court have indicated they will order the issuance of marriage licenses to applicants of the same gender in May of this year. Activist courts have left the people with one recourse. If we are to prevent the meaning of marriage from being changed forever, our nation must enact a constitutional amendment to protect marriage in America.
I agree with 3,000 years of recorded history. I disagree with the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts. Marriage is an institution between a man and a woman. I will support an amendment to the Massachusetts Constitution to make that expressly clear.
I think that Massachusetts, being the first state to legalize marriage, I think that that had a tremendous impact.
So a number of publications wrote that Springfield was friendly to the gay community, and that attracted a lot of people, professional people that came into Springfield, and it became an economic net gain for the city and for the region.
I've had friends who've been together for 25 years and were able to marry.
And ultimately, things worked out okay. And Massachusetts did not collapse because of gay marriage. No.
About what time did those events stop, and do you have any idea why they stopped?
Well, I think the flag racing stopped when there was a change of administration.
Mayor Ryan was far more conservative than Mayor Albano, and that set the tone.
And I don't know whether Mayor Albano's successor, had issues, or whether it wasn't something that was on his radar.
He dissolved the domestic partnership ordinance per se, did not implement it.
Up until that point, I was Mayor Albano's liaison, and when Ryan came in, all of us volunteer people resigned, and some were reappointed. I didn't. By then, I was not so interested.
97 was the last year that I got involved. That's when I adopted him.
About a year and a half ago, I decided to relocate to Washington, D.C.
The people that ran them ran out of energy,
Sure.
And there weren't people to replace them.
So I was 3 months into my term, and I said, well, we're making all kinds of history. It'd be kind of sad if the only LGBT person to get elected, openly gay LGBT person to get elected, didn't have a pride. I said, I might not win re-election, so I might as well make it happen. So I started making some calls. And one of my first calls was to a wonderful local community activist, Holly Richardson.
Ahmad called me up with that Ahmad energy that he has, and was talking 500 miles a minute.
And I said, we should do it in June during Pride Month.
It was probably March.
She said, you're crazy.
So he's still talking. I'm having my own conversation with myself. And he's just so excited about this, and he's certain that this is going to get going, and we're going to do it now, and this is why. So there wasn't much time, but he called some people, and we got some people, and people came, and there was a group of people.
He invited, knowing my politics, invited us to the first meeting of the Pride Committee, where we met other amazing people like Holly Richardson.
And it was amazing because the first meeting had over 30 folks there from all kinds of backgrounds. So we had young people, we had people who were young at heart, we had allies, we had trans folks, we had lesbians, we had gay boys, we had drag queens and trans folks. It was just such an amazing meeting. And the irony was that they all started fighting. So from that 30, a small, very small group emerged from that 30 and said, this is beautiful.
It was really his will.
Yeah.
It was. If Ahmad, I have to say, I mean, if Ahmad wasn't the one really initiating that, I can imagine that however many more years would have went by without it really sort of grabbing hold.
Yeah.
We are kind of a different city. We're so diverse. How do we make this inclusive racially and socioeconomically and both gender-wise? And how do we make sure all kinds of folks feel included? So we came up with this idea to make a week of events that were strung together with the idea that we are all one community, voicing all of our identities in different ways. And just with duct tape and glue and a $2,000, less than $2,000 budget, we pulled off the first Pride in nearly 10 years.
We had a flag raising that was great. That was actually, for the first year, was surprisingly good. That, again, our political players, leaders, came out in support.
That was the first year ever that they put rainbow flags on the street, on Main Street.
We had a town hall, so we had a panel of people speaking on a range of issues.
And I should also mention that during this time, we also had the biggest disaster in modern Springfield history. Right. So as we were planning Springfield Pride, we get hit by a tornado that devastates half the city. Literally devastates it. And the irony is that we were blamed for that as well. And so in the wake of this disaster, it was even more important that we had a pride. That it was not just the idea that we're proud of who we are, but we're proud of where we're at and where we're from, and that was Springfield.
In 2012 was bigger and better.
Bigger, way bigger and better, yeah.
So we went from 100 or 125 to 550 folks showing up over the week. We went from having in a week maybe 4 events, 4 or 5 events, to having 8 events. Mm-hmm. Flag raisings where we went from having 4 elected officials show up to having over 15. A group of people came together. Despite strife and difference and different perspectives and work schedules with no money, I sometimes can't believe what we did. So our kickoff was our flag raising, which I'm incredibly proud of.
You're on the steps of City Hall and you're raising a flag that identifies who you are as a group.
because it was visible for a week and because it integrated with everybody who comes and goes in Springfield, that flag raising and the banners that, that adorn the street for the month of Pride was much more meaningful to us than a brief parade that looks like it's just about the community itself.
And also inspired folks to say, I've never seen, straight allies, like I've never seen flags down the street of Main Street, and I felt like I was in a real city.
A flag raising, wow, how great is that?
Our second event is our So You Think You Can Drag event, which is our annual amateur drag show that we open up to folks from high school to the people who are young at heart, coming to show their stuff.
Very proud to be Latino and gay. Any Latinos in the house? Come on, can the Latinos make some noise?
And then after that, we had our Pride party. So we don't actually have a gay club in Springfield.
One of the typically straight bars in Springfield kind of gave us a night. And as I stood outside the club, there were, all these carloads of, young people coming into the club. And I remember overhearing some of the young people saying, oh my God, I feel safe.
And then on Monday, we had our spoken word event, which was just a hit out of the park.
People in the community got to read their poetry and speak their passion and sing their songs.
And we had another full house on a Monday night.
Some of the performers, let me tell you, and they're lesbians that come up here, they make me hot and moist, okay? The stuff that they're gonna say today, you might get excited. It's okay, please just excuse yourself.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G spot.
Hi, my name is Danica Ali. I'm a proud out transgender lesbian woman.
So I want a gay guy friend, so we can shout till we drop, wear sexy clothes and hit the club, cut any motherfuckers that try to get tough.
We got $1, you win a free Zumba class. Come on, about $1, free Zumba. We got $1 in the back.
Some said the local lake had been enchanted.
Is it the way my hair shines and glistens through the wind?
Let me touch you so you can remember. Remember to touch me so I don't forget.
When I was just a little boy, well, the devil called my name. And he asked me, who do you think you're fooling?
All the things you do to hurt me, then as I sit up and cried. And all the shit that you put me through, all the pain I kept inside.
Now here is where I lay, in a pool of your sweat, with your breathing on my neck, with your fingers down my back. Track, rewind, I must be out of my goddamn mind. I answered your doorbell moaning in very white baritone, banging on my door, but I shouldn't have because you're not my man anymore. Huh.
And I will always love you. I will always love you.
This is the biggest turnout we've ever had for an open mic night, so give it up for you guys for coming out today. Happy Pride!
That was then followed by Tuesday night. which was our film showing of Pariah.
A film that featured a young African-American woman in New York who comes out as a lesbian and the struggles that she encounters in her community, which also we felt reflected some of the dynamics of Springfield.
And that was at the Bing, and we filled the house and couldn't have taken any more people in.
And then Wednesday we had our annual town hall, which was on intersectionality, which we called What's Your Position?
Does it mean the same thing to be white and gay as it does to be a person of color and gay? What about to be gay and a person with a disability?
I tell you, all the time you know for good order. A woman, African American, a person with a disability, Christian and American, and bisexual.
My fathers had sat me down and said, you know, Austin, we know you're straight, and we just want to say that we still love you.
The people who do the oppressing, whether intentionally or not, have to admit that they have that power.
So it's important to look at where do we experience oppression, but where might we be colluding in the oppression of somebody else.
I'm proud of myself when I can find the strength to speak through that oppression. You know, the oppression that is around me every day.
If in fact we talk about being allies, then we also have to be allies across our oppression.
We can't have a movement for civil rights without naming the fact that there's some people who have far less civil rights than other people.
So what I'm saying is that we need more diversity towards the trans community in Massachusetts.
You need to shout other people on their bullshit.
I want to be in that number when marriage is the right of all.
And we ended our week with a nice, wonderful youth party that we held at Out Now, our youth organization, where we just wanted to make sure that young folks also got the opportunity to celebrate with one another and their older allies supporting them. Yeah. And I think that was a really beautiful way to end the week, is to make sure that we are generationally creating more pride and creating the framework for those folks to be able to take this over.
We see across the country a resurgence of conservative opposition.
I'm not ashamed to admit that I'm a Christian, but you don't need to be in the pew every Sunday to know that there's something wrong in this country when gays can serve openly in the military.
I will tell Americans straight up that I don't support defining marriage as anything but between one man and one woman.
And there's a passage in Isaiah, I forget the chapter and verse, but it says, they parade their sin like Sodom. And that is what is exactly going on with people who have defined themselves by this particular behavior and lifestyle. They parade their sin like Sodom. And they do it under the rainbow banner.
And if your children were born homosexual, what would you do?
You know, I should have answered it. I just didn't want to answer any of those questions. I mean, obviously, I'd tell him he was adopted.
So I know that we've made some unbelievable changes in the last 20 years, but we have a lot further to go.
I think that that's often a mistake that oppressed groups make, that you struggle out of that oppression, but then you forget how difficult it was, how many backs you're standing on.
Transgendered people, I think there's still an uphill battle for acceptance.
And we hear young people here at Out Now talk all the time about their schools and how hard the schools are.
We also had, for the first time, elected officials actually coming out in favor of, but we had one of the first LGBT Youth Commission hearings in Western Massachusetts, and only 3 elected officials showed up.
So do you think that it's important that we continue to have pride events in Springfield?
Most definitely. The voice has to be heard. The issues have to constantly be brought up. We still haven't, we might have one the gay marriage right here in Massachusetts, but it's still not on a national level. You still can't claim your spouse on your federal income tax. You still can't file that way. You still, there's still certain rights that are not afforded to us, and we need our voice out there.
The rights that you feel that you have or have, they can be taken away so quickly if we're not vigilant.
So we're talking over 7-8 years now, we've had equal marriage, and yet we had 2 hate crimes this year in Springfield.
Obviously, I'd love to have people to hear word of mouth that people feel like this is a place where they can be and be out and not have to worry.
Yeah.
And we're not there yet.
Where the struggles today with the gay community lies is because we had made all these inroads and people have become comfortable. Everybody's just like, sitting home on the couch like, I don't want to go down there anymore. I've done my thing.
We know there are a lot of LGBTQ people here, but they tend to sort of isolate and live, sort of in their apartments or their homes. And so there isn't a community of sorts.
I get online tonight and I can shop and I can do this and I can do that. That's all well and good. How much are you helping your community out by doing that?
The folks who want to push us back into the closet or back into whatever place they want us to hide from can't win.
Pride used to be a liberation movement, and I think we want to think seriously about that. Are we just proud, or are we still a liberation movement? Because we're not there yet.
And I think what we are showing folks is that not only is the LGBT community ready to be a part of this community, and it has always been a part of this community, but a visible part, but so are our allies. And folks are ready to come together and say, I want to be in a world, in a city, in a community that welcomes everybody.
There are many parts of my identity that are obvious for folks. You see me and you see me as a person of color. Most people see me as an African American person of color, and that's true. I am African American. But there are other aspects of my identity that are not so apparent to people. My biological mother is from Honduras. So I've just told you 3 pieces of information there: that I was adopted, that my mother was an immigrant here, and that she was from a Latina background. Those are all things you cannot see just by looking at me. And I think what the importance of pride is the ability to, for a moment, to say, this is who I am. I'm going to take pride in my sexual orientation. I'm going to take pride in my gender identity, or how I express myself, or I have friends who are gay, or I have a son or a daughter who is a lesbian, or I may wear a dress occasionally. Whatever it is that brings people to pride, it is this core belief that for at least a moment, at least a day, I'm going to be accepting of who I am. And I expect others to be accepting as well.
It is the only time that we get to bring together all of these people, all of these spaces, all of these moments. And for a very short time, the world is ours. So Springfield Pride is a small group of folks who are volunteers, grassroots, but dedicated to something very big, which is that we are proud of who we are proud of Springfield, and we want to show that pride every year.
And we need you
Yes.
to come and join us on our committee. I'm telling you, we need you. We have to have you now because we have not arrived yet. We are not liberated yet. We need you. Come.